Welcome to the Gloria Show, where personal growth takes center stage. Founder and CEO of Personal Dynamics, Gloria Sloan, shares practical strategies to enrich your life, elevate your mindset, and empower your journey. As she reminds us, ultra-successful people never stop learning, reaching, and growing. Get ready for fresh insights and uplifting inspiration. Here's your host, Gloria Sloan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gloria Show. I'm so glad you're here with me today because this conversation is about something that impacts every area of our lives, whether we realize it or not. In today's episode, we're going to talk about live a life led well, the essentials of coaching. I will explore what it really means to pause, reflect, and choose a life led with intention. If you've ever felt the pull for more clarity, confidence, or direction, then this conversation is for you. Executive coach Dr. Princess Cullum joins me to discuss how coaching supports growth at every stage, from personal alignment to decisive leadership. And together, we'll talk about how proper coaching can help you navigate change, trust your decisions, and step fully into who you're meant to become. This episode is an invitation to reset, refocus, and invest in yourself with purpose. So I want to clarify one thing. I want to say clearly so you understand. A life led, often phrased as a life well led, refers to the manner, quality, or style in which someone has directed experience or conducted their existence. A well-led life is an intentional, purpose-driven existence defined by using leadership skills authentically to service others with integrity, to navigate their daily life, personal growth, and relationships, often extending to professional mentorship or community impact. So it can go from one phase to another, and it does involve actively managing one's own values, happiness, well-being, while positively influencing others. A well-led life doesn't happen by accident. It happens by intention. So that's why coaching matters. Many people believe that coaching is only for people who are struggling, or only high level executives, or only for athletes and performers. Coaching has been around for a long time. But the truth is, coaching is for anyone who wants clarity, growth, and alignment. At different stages of life, we all face moments where we feel stuck or uncertain. We know there's more, but we can't quite name it. And we're successful on the outside, but unsettled on the inside. We're transitioning personally or professionally. So coaching meets us in the moments that help us to move forward with intention rather than reaction. The coaching landscape varies. There are many different types of coaching available today, including career coaching, business coaching, health and wellness coaching, performance coaching, life coaching, and executive coaching. Each serves a purpose, and none of them exist in isolation. One often helps the other. But for everything I've seen over the years in my work, my life, and my conversation with leaders, it all points back to one core truth. Life coaching is the foundation. Life coaching What is it really? Life coaching is about helping you reconnect with yourself. It helps you slow down long enough to ask the questions that matter. Who am I becoming? What do I want this season of my life to look like? What beliefs am I holding on to that no longer serve me? What does alignment look like for me right now? Coaching supports that. The mindset and beliefs that shift, the purpose and the direction, confidence and self trust, emotional awareness, goal setting is rooted in the values. So it's not about reminding you of your capacity, it's leading yourself well. Before you can lead a business, a team, a family, or an organization well, you must lead yourself well. Life coaching strengthens your ability to do that, to make clear decisions, set healthy boundaries, respond instead of reacting, to trust yourself, and to be able to move forward with confidence. When you lead your life well, your actions become more intentional, your choices are more aligned, and your energy is more focused. And here's what naturally happens when the internal work is done: people step into leadership. Yeah, the natural progression to executive coaching. As clarity deepens, responsibility often expands, people began to lead teams. They influence organizations. They make decisions that affect others. And with that growth comes new challenges: pressure, visibility, complex decision making, accountability, and the impact it has. So that's where executive coaching comes in. Executive coaching builds on the foundation of life coaching and focuses on how leaders communicate, influence, strategize, lead under pressure, stay grounded while carrying responsibility. Executive coaching doesn't replace life coaching by any means. It extends it and it helps it. So that's why I am so excited to have one of my favorite executive coaches in the house with me today. And this is precisely why this conversation is so powerful, because Dr. Princess Cullum is going to take us there with the executive coaching process. Because once you've done with the inner work, the next question is, how do I lead others with clarity, integrity, and purpose? That's where Dr. Cullum comes in. She is an executive coach who works with leaders ready to elevate not just what they do, but how they show up. Because she understands that leadership isn't about titles, it's about presence, influence, and intentional decision making. Dr. Cullum will spend the next few minutes sharing insights on executive coaching, leadership, and what it truly means to lead at a higher level. So let's settle in, take notes, and join me in welcoming Dr. Princess Cullum.
Well, thank you so much, Gloria. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to join you all today. You gave me such a wonderful introduction. I need to make sure that I live up to that. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Welcome back on the show.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. You know, executive coaching is pretty important, right? Because the people who are making the decisions for the organization, those people really don't have a lot of resources as far as like somebody they can go to. I mean, really think about it in the organization, someone in that C-suite is looked upon to have all the answers. And so they don't get a lot of feedback from the rest of the organization. And so how do they know if some of the decisions that they're making are right for the organization or not? Of course, we hope that they do, but just like everybody else, they become unsure sometimes. And they too need somebody to help them with clarity and with confidence, because they're not on the front lines. Like it's been a long time for most of them that they've actually been able to interact with their customers and with the people who are actually doing the work. And so they really do use coaching as a way to be able to have them have in touch with what's going on in the organization, get clarity, and really have somebody to talk to, because they don't really, the higher up you go in the organization, the less likely you are to have somebody in the organization to talk to. Everybody's looking to you for the answers. So let me tell you a story about how I actually became interested in coaching, and I'll tell you a little bit about me as well. So I was working for Cancer Treatment Centers of America at the time, which is actually now City of Hope. It's a national oncology hospital, and they had just opened up a new hospital in Noonan, Georgia. This hospital was growing at leaps and bounds. 93% of everyone in the hospital was new. It was new to the organization or new to their role. And so we had our frontline leaders that were responsible for directly managing 85% of everyone in the hospital that were coming in with their own ideas about leadership. Maybe some of them hadn't had any leadership experience at all. And we really needed to set the groundwork about what really is this organization going to be about? What's the culture going to be about? How are we going to lead? And everything. We were starting at the ground level. And so what we did is we put together leadership development programs, starting with that frontline leader program, and then we put in programs for every single level in the pipeline. But we were missing something. And what we were missing was the connectivity that coaching brings. And so we brought in leadership coaching. We did coaching starting at that manager level, really with our high potentials. And so back to your comment, Gloria, we never used coaching as something that was disciplinary. Right, that is, more of your employee relations, that you use, somebody who's having performance issues, maybe you put them on a PIP, something along those lines. But coaching has typically been, in my experience, for high potentials and for executives. Right? And I look like you were going to say something. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I was just nodding to that. I agree with that. Yes.
So we started with our frontline leaders just because of that impact they had with 85% of all stakeholders reporting to them. But then we worked our way up to the executives. And we ended up coaching all of our executives. So that would be all of our C-suite officers, as well as all the physicians in the hospital, because they really are seen as leaders in the organization. I worked with an outside executive that we brought in that was working with our executives about 2 times a month over a 12-month period. And I tell you, the results we got from the improvement we saw within the communication of our executive team, the teamwork of our executive team, being able to work on one accord, all of those things improved. And that's literally when I got the bug to be a coach. So seeing this coach come in there and have such an impact, I was like, this sounds like something I want to do. And so that's what started me on this path to actually become a coach. And it wasn't until the last couple of years that I actually formally became a coach and became ICF certified at the ACC level. I am currently looking to become PCC certified, so stay tuned for that. But I think it's important that you do have these, type of qualifications, because it gives us a common language upon which to talk about coaching, as well as it sets the stage for, well, what do I get when I actually get coached? What does that mean? Because there's so many people out there right now that are saying that they're doing coaching. And you and I both know, Gloria, that in some cases it's not coaching, and it really does dilute what coaching is. So I want to talk a little bit today about what coaching is and what coaching isn't. Okay. Especially from an executive level. And then I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that people have in executive roles and how coaching can help with that. So coaching, you have everyone from somebody who wants to give you business advice. So you brought up all the different types of coaching, to someone who's going to give you career. And I use the word advice on purpose, because that's not what coaching is. Coaching is all about asking questions. We don't come in with all the answers. We come in with the questions to help you get clarity on what the issues or the opportunities are. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, Gloria, but we firmly believe that you have all of the information you need right inside of here to address any opportunities or challenges that you may have, but they're probably spinning around. I don't know about you, but when I get thoughts in my head, those ideas, they just go around and around, and I need help getting those out of my head and actually into a form that I can actually do something with. And that's where coaching comes into play. So we're going to ask questions. And for me, I ask questions in 3 different types or styles. I'm going to ask those fact-based questions, which, Gloria, might look like, okay, tell me about a time when you led your organization to do X, Y, and Z. And you'd go fact 1, fact 2, fact 3. But then I might ask you a feeling-based question. Now that surprises some people. They're like, in executive coaching, you have feeling-based questions? Yes, because feelings, it's data, it's information. And so I might ask you a question about having to do a layoff in your organization. And Gloria, you might lean back in your chair and sigh a little bit. And so I'm going to ask you, what did you just experience right now? What is it that you're feeling, right? Because believe it or not, it's not any fun a lot of times for executives to have to do those types of things, right? I've had to do layoffs where you do the early morning meeting and security and HR waiting in the room. Believe me, that's not fun. And that is a place where a lot of times executives will bring in a coach to talk through not just the process of what's going to happen, but how do I manage the people? How do I help the people to transition through such a what can be a troubling occurrence in their life? And so a lot of times people think about the process, but a lot of executives are thinking about the people and how do I manage the people? And coaching does a really good job of helping them to look through that lens. And then Gloria, you already mentioned this last thing, which is values. The other type of questions that we ask are value-based questions. And so in that case, again, I might look at you and say, hey, Gloria, you've talked a lot about your teammates being family members in your organization. And so as you're thinking about moving your corporate headquarters from the city to the suburbs in a city that doesn't have mass transportation, I'm wondering, what do you think that's going to do to, the people who are coming here, with their families, having to take care of other people? What impact that's going to have on your family is important to you. You're calling these people your family members. So how does that impact them? And that's based on me kind of connecting the dots that family is a value of theirs and that they want to protect not only the family of the organization, but those employees' families as well. And so this move might have an impact on that. So we're going to ask those 3 types of questions to really get all the information out that we possibly can. Again, we're asking questions, we're not giving direction. Giving direction is really mentoring, right? You go to a mentor for somebody to basically tell you, hey, you want to be able to do X, Y, and Z, these are the steps that you need to take to get there. Coaching is also not therapy, right? There's a lot of people who come to coaching and feel like they've been in a therapy session.
Well, I know, yeah.
Now it's close. I don't know about you. Tell me if you disagree, but what I tell people is that it's close in that we have to get back to the root cause of an issue. Because a lot of what we get when somebody comes to coaching is we get the symptoms, what's going on. And if we address those symptoms, we'll end up being back in a loop and we'll be back to those same issues in a matter of weeks or months, because at the root, it hasn't been solved. And so we really have to go back to the root to identify it. And then coaching allows us to pull it forward, to really talk about how those behaviors you have today are impacted by those behaviors that were set back there in the past. The difference between us and a therapist is the therapist can actually go back and unpack that occurrence and understand the what, when, why, and hows. As a coach, I'm not clinically licensed to be able to do that. So I can go back and help them to identify, I can pull forward. A therapist can help you actually to unpack it and also to bring it forward. And believe it or not, that comes in executive training as well, because these are still people. They are still human. And in a coaching setting, we're there to discuss whatever it is that they want to discuss, right? It's them. They're leading us through the discussion. So maybe people don't realize this, but in executive coaching, we cover life topics. Right? We cover, I'm a caregiver to both my kids and to elderly parents, and the time that it takes in order to be able to do that and how that's impacting me at this level. I've talked about marriage and kids, because all of that impacts them. They're a whole person. And in coaching, we do coach to the whole person. So executive typically talks to the level of someone in the organization. To your point, it's not about titles, but executive coaching typically is held for people in the director level, above, or high potentials. But in that executive coaching, we address the whole person. Like, we're going to talk as much about what do we need to do in this organization to move it forward and to influence the team. But if that person needs coaching that is for their development, we're going to address that as well in the coaching session. Let me tell you how we're going to do that. We're going to do that in 3 big buckets. So the first bucket is we're going to ask those clarifying questions. You talked about clarity a lot. So we're going to ask the what, when, where, and how type of questions. Because again, you might come in there and tell me, hey, Gloria, it's so important to me that I talk about time management because I'm not able to work my calendar. I'm double booked. I don't get a chance to eat lunch. I'm just running all day long. So I need to get a strategy for how to manage time. I heard you. Yeah. But I'm not going to jump right into brainstorming with you or asking you questions about time management. I'm still going to ask questions that really get to the root of where these time management issues are coming from. Because believe it or not, it may not be your time management skills at all. It may be something else that you're actually dealing with that's manifesting itself in time management issues. So we got to get to the root of it. Once we get to the root of it, then we go to the middle, which are the challenging questions. And I get excited with the challenging questions because I think that's my superpower, to be able to go in there and really kind of poke the bear a little bit. You know, it's like, you say that we've identified the core issue, but have we, right? Are we possibly still working under some limiting beliefs, some old biases that really aren't working for you anymore? And you mentioned it, and we want to be intentional about how we actually show up. We don't want to be just working on old experiences that don't apply to what we're currently going through. So we're gonna challenge them. And then that last bucket, we're always going to get to, so what's next? Tell me what it is that you want to do in regards to this situation. And I'm going to ask you questions like, okay, how are you going to stay committed? What resources do you need? What are the potential obstacles that could pop up and would not allow you to be able to do this? So 3 big buckets in how we actually process through the coaching, 3 type of questions that we actually ask. And this is consistent in executive coaching just as much as it's consistent in the other coachings that we do. Again, the difference is executive coaching is typically held for those people at a certain level, director level or above, or high potentials, but we actually coach to the whole person. So we'll talk about, again, business-oriented things, but then if the person being coached wants to talk about other issues, we will go there with them.
No, that's good. Keep going. This is helpful. And it's good information because what you're actually showing is the parallel difference between life coaching and executive coaching. And that's why I felt it was important for our audience to hear the difference specifically and to distinguish executive coaching from the therapy part of it, because there is a misunderstanding sometimes with people who think that you are and can be the therapist as well. So I'm glad that you brought some clarity to that. But I want you to continue on and finish your presentation because you're hitting it right where I knew you would.
Awesome. So one thing that we also talk about when we're doing executive coaching is the fact that in any organization, there are what we call systems. And this is in any organization. I've seen it in nonprofit. I've seen it people who are volunteering. I see it on the corporate education, higher education. It really doesn't matter. If you have a group of people that are working together, you're going to come into these type of things, these systems where we have bottoms, we have middles, and we have tops in any organization. The bottoms in the organization are typically the people who are doing the work, right? Those could be your individual contributors in your organizations. It could be people who are managing projects in your organization. They're the one that's closest to the customer. They're the one that's doing the work. The middles are typically middle management. You guessed it. So that might be your director, your VP level, depends on the organization. And those are the people who are managing other people. They could be managing individual contributors, or they could be managing managers. And then you have the top of the organization, and that's typically the C-suite. So your chief of marketing, your chief executive, your chief operation officer, all those type of people. Now you have those 3 levels, and depending on what organization you're in, you're going to come into the organization at one of those different levels. So I may be at the bottom in one organization that I'm in, but then in another organization, I might be a top. So it's not to say that you're always a top or that you're always a bottom. Let's look at the corporate setting. So in the corporate setting, the last time I was in corporate America, I was in the middle. So I was coming in at the director level. What does that look like? Well, in the middle, you're the person that's getting the information from the top and you're getting the information from the bottom, and you're inundated with information. And so what happens a lot of times is, what do I do with all this information? Do I try to solve the issue because I'm the one that's getting it? Or do I we call it a pipe, and the pipe can get bogged down because the person who's getting all the information is trying to solve the issue themselves. But we want to turn the pipe so that the information flows up to the top if it needs to go, and down to the bottom. So that middle person is really a gatekeeper. That is one of the toughest roles that you actually have in corporate America. And so that is typically where we introduce coaching, is when somebody makes, again, that first turn from being a manager to being a director. Because now not only are you managing people in your organization vertically, but then you have to manage horizontally as well with other people who are at possibly your same level that you have no authority over. And so how are you going to influence them? How are you going to communicate with them? What are you going to do when conflict comes up? Because there's competing priorities. So that's typically when we actually we're called into an organization to start working with people, is when they're at that director level. Now, definitely we work with tops, because some of the challenges that tops see in any organization is like, imagine it just like this, a top. They are so far away from the day-to-day operations of the organization, from the actual customers that the organization is serving, from the people who are actually engaging with those customers, that they need a grounding. They need the ability to be able to know what's going on at that level, although they're not there. And so what we do a lot of times with executives is really listening to them. We're really a sounding board to listen to them and ask them questions, because they have the information. They may not be working with that person day in and day out, but they have the information. They just got so much going on, so many priorities going on, that they need help with focusing and with clarifying on what it actually is. And then actually with being held accountable, right? Again, there's really, the board perhaps, but there's nobody else that's knocking on the door going, hey, President Gloria Sloan, thought you told me you were gonna do that X, Y, and Z thing and you didn't do it. They don't usually get that type of feedback. And so a coach can be the person who holds them accountable to say, hey, the last time we talked, you said that you were going to do X, Y, and Z. I would like to follow up with you and find out what happened. How is that working for you? Not in a judgmental way, but in a way that we're partnering with that executive and helping them to continue to move their topics forward, and holding them accountable for what they say that they want to do in that space. We don't typically coach people that are at that bottom level unless they're high potentials. That's where high potential coaching comes in. So as an organization, if they've seen someone that is a frontline manager, they've been promoted into the management role, and they're like, you know what, we really do see this person being in succession to some of our other leaders in the organization, then we would bring in a coach to help them to make the transition to the next level, because that turn from a frontline manager is one of the toughest turns to be able to make, because you go from being an individual contributor responsible for all the work that you do and the reward for it, to now being responsible for the work of others. And it's an identity shift that a lot of people struggle with. So when we see high potentials, we do work with them sometimes at the manager level, getting them prepared, and then coaching them as they transition on up in the organization to the director level and to the C-suite level. But that system is something that's very crucial, and a lot of people don't talk about it. When they think about systems, all kind of things come up, but there really is an organizational system that, again, it's bottoms, middles, and top. And each one of those levels, when you come into the organization as a top, a middle, or a bottom, again, these conditions are waiting for you. No matter who you are, there are conditions. Bottoms feel like things are just being thrown down at them and they don't have any control. Middles are those gatekeepers who have to make the decisions about, am I keeping this information? Am I going to put it in the audience or give it to the audience that best can utilize it. And then there's the tops, which are responsible for the vision and the big picture, but then sometimes can lose sense of what's actually happening in the organization because they're so far removed. So coaching does help in all those different levels, as I've identified a few minutes ago.
That is so good. As she was talking, I was wondering, a question, the size of organizations. I know that plays a big part in the executive coaching process, the size of companies, organizations, and how the tiers are set up. So could you speak to that in perspective in terms of the levels of coaching from a size perspective? Because I know you have probably worked with organizations that, had hundreds or whatever, and they pull you in for that one main thing. We need a coaching for this level of however many executives and their teams. As you said, some have teams under them that they don't have a lot of control over. So how does size play a part in?
Yeah. I have coached people at the executive level in organizations that have about 100 employees. And then I have coached them at, your major organizations that may have 100,000 employees. I think the difference really is not so much on the size, because I think it's a commitment to developing your people. And is that commitment there? I mean, because coaching is one of the riskiest things that some businesses can do because it's expensive. Right? I mean, coaching can, anything that has to do with your people, right? Human capital, people themselves, and then anything you have to do to train people becomes expensive. And a lot of times, unfortunately, organizations will cut learning and development. They'll cut coaching when times get hard, right? Because it's hard to sometimes put a direct ROI on coaching or in learning and development. It's hard to say, well, this particular person, because they were coached, had this much more increase in revenue for the organization. So it really, I haven't seen it come down to size as much as I've seen it come down to, does that organization value their employees, and are they trying to make sure that those employees are working at their highest, best use in the organization? And coaching is one way to be able to allow them to be able to do that. Okay. That's an interesting question to think about.
Yeah. So before a company brings an executive coach in, what does that company need to do, or what do you recommend, or what have you seen that they definitely have to have in place before they bring you in?
That's a great question. So one thing that we like to do is some performance consulting, and it doesn't necessarily always happen at the coach level. Sometimes if you're in a big organization, you'll have sales reps, or you'll have someone in HR, or someone else that's going to go in and they're going to assess what the situation is. So it's not automatically assumed that coaching is the right solution. It could be coaching, it could be leadership development, it could be a hiring issue that we've hired the wrong people, and so we need to go back and change our competencies. So it really does depend. So there has to be an assessment initially by someone in the organization. Typically it's human resources that will do an assessment to determine, hey, we have a business situation, a business need. What's the best solution for us to be able to meet this business need? And again, based on the assessment, let's just say it comes back that it's coaching. What they might uncover when they assess that lets them know that it should be coaching is that people have institutional knowledge. They know what they're supposed to do. However, it's just not translating into them actually doing that type of work. And so there's a disconnect on the application. Coaching is really, really good for helping with that helping with that application. Taking what we know and breaking it down into chunks so this actually you can operationalize it. You can actually do something with it. And then again, that accountability piece. When you know you're going to have to talk to somebody in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks, people have a tendency to go ahead and take that action that they said they were going to take because they don't want to face that person in a couple of weeks and say, you know what, I really didn't do anything with that. And so assessment happens first. So organization assesses, is this a business issue that will best be addressed by coaching? Let's say they say yes. Then the next part comes in and we really start to put together the coaching plans. And that's where we're challenging people. You could think about it as an intervention, right? We really are trying to meet people where they are, but get them outside of limiting beliefs that they might have that are having them stuck, right? When I try to explain limiting beliefs to people, I explain it like this. So the brain is trying to keep the body functioning. It has your liver, it has your heart, it has all of these things to do. It doesn't have time to actually analyze every single thing that you're doing throughout the day. So that's where the mind comes in, the subconscious and the conscious mind. Its job is to help the brain to be efficient and effective. And so what it's going to do is it's going to go back to a neural pathway of a previous experience. And when it sees what you're experiencing, it's going to go, aha, Gloria, I know what this is, and you need to act accordingly based on what you've done in the past. And you can't even help it. Like the mind is going to click in, you can't stop it. But as you learn yourself and you learn what your triggers are and you know what your tendencies typically are, you can start to put strategies in place to circumvent that. But you have to realize that your body's going to automatically go back to some of those previous experiences. And the more painful they've been, the faster the mind will retrieve them. It's almost like having that emotional response is like locking in that memory, because think about it. The mind is like, I don't want to go through that again, right? I'm going to go there real quick and say, no, we don't want to do that. But then it's familiar. So that's why a lot of times we're not getting the outcomes that we want from behaviors, but because we know how to do it, because it's comfortable, we keep doing it, right? It's like going the same way to work every day and sitting in that traffic for an hour, and you're like, why am I sitting here? Well, there's alternative routes, but it's comfortable, although it's not enjoyable and the outcome isn't what you want. It's comfortable. And it's not until there are actual detour signs that people will go a different way. That's what coaching provides. It provides those detour signs to say, hey, stop following that same direction. Let's try a different path.
Well, when you're talking about that, there are success stories. I mean, there are organizations and companies that have had executive coaches like yourself to come in. So, there are some success factors to it. And I know that it does cost, coaching in general, everybody doesn't always have a budget, so to speak, for it. These are things that have to be, that comes up through the accessibility and all the things that happen. But just tell us, there are success stories. Yes. This is true. What I want the audience and the listeners to understand is that coaching at any stage, at any level, it's real. And it's a part of what we live in this world now. It isn't anything that just came up all of a sudden. It's even more focused now in our world than people realize. In general, companies, corporations, individual coaching as a whole has a broader perspective now, and from everything that I'm seeing and in my organization and developing, it's more, and it's going to be more.
Yes.
So, help us with the success. It does help. It works.
It does help. The way that I think about it is it goes back to engagement, right? Because we can quantify that if you have a highly emotionally engaged employees at your company, there is research out there that will help you to be able to say, I think the number used to be 93%, don't quote me on that, but let's say you got 93% of your employees that on an engagement survey say that they would recommend their company to someone else to come work there. That's like one of our net promoter score questions. Would you recommend your company to somebody else to come and work here? 93% of all the people that took your survey said yes. Like, that's considered a highly emotionally engaged score. So what the research tells us is that if you can get to that 93%, it can equate to an increase in productivity that's about 165%. So that's how we can quantify coaching. It's not the only variable that impacts engagement, right? But it is one of the significant variables, because when we ask people in an organization, what's the number one thing that's important to you that's going to help you to truly be engaged, they say development. Development is the number one thing that helps them. So for all those companies out there that are spending money on picnics and spending money on Christmas parties, I'm not saying that that's not a good thing. I'm just saying that's not going to move the needle on engagement. If you really want to move the needle, take that money and put it into development and do learning development and coaching. That will really help to move the needle. And again, because we can directly say it's a variable in increasing productivity, which we know directly impacts the bottom line. So I have seen organizations use coaching and measure coaching success by improvements in engagement. The other thing I've seen them do is to look at turnover, because the number one relationship for every employee is with their manager.
Mm-hmm.
People don't leave organizations. Everybody knows this. People leave managers. And again, I've already told you that turn into that first line manager role is the toughest turn to make, because you go from being an individual contributor only responsible for yourself to now managing someone else. And it's an identity crisis, because who am I now if I'm not doing that thing, right? And so we fail a lot of our managers by not giving them adequate training to make them ready for this new manager role, because it's different from being an individual contributor. What got them there is not gonna keep them there. So we have done, again, coaching with those high potentials, which we have seen help to reduce turnover. So I started this story by telling you about my work at Cancer Treatment Centers of America, working with that frontline leader program. We actually saw our turnover go from 20%, and think about healthcare, nurses, there's a high turnover with nurses, right? 20% to actually 12% in a 7-month period.
Wow.
We also tracked complaints of people about their managers, and that actually went from 11% to 1%. We directly relate that to our learning development and coaching that we did with that level of the organization. So there definitely are ways of being able to quantify the success that you have in coaching. Again, if you kind of tie it back to engagement can be tied to productivity, which directly impacts the bottom line.
Yep, but they are looking for the overall development from the whole process. Yes. Dr. Princess Cullum, this has been a great conversation. But before I let you go, I want you to talk with the audience and let them know how they can find you, reach out to you, and some of the services and things that you do offer, because what you said is just very valuable information. And I want you to now please tell them about how they can find you.
Thank you. Well, you know what? There's Google Maps, but don't use that. That's kind of scary. You can kind of look and see what's in your backyard. I'm like, I don't know about this. You can use my website, which is www.ceoofyou.com. So www.ceoofyou.com is my website, where you can go out and you can learn about my background. You can learn about the services that I have. You can read testimonials. You can even see some videos of me actually in action. So what are my services? So leadership development is one of the things that I offer. So I've talked now already about the fact that I've built out 4 leadership development academies at different in different industries and different organizations. So I'm typically the person that they bring in when they say, hey, either what we have isn't functioning well or we don't have anything at all. And so we build it from the ground up. We build it based on what the needs are. We always start with the business needs of the organization and identify how does learning and coaching help support that business need. So learning and development, coaching are 2 parts of the business. And like I said, from the beginning to the end, I can come in and actually do development work, design and development work to actually develop the curriculum that we want to have. And it's typically based on competencies. So the competencies that we have are based on what level you are in the organization, as well as what the company wants their people, the behaviors they want their people to exhibit. So we build out leadership development programs, we build out coaching programs, and then I also do public speaking. And so I do public speaking, and I'll put a little plug in. I'm actually going to be doing TEDx Caring.
Yay!
November 7th.
Yes, but we appreciate you. And I'd just like to say, Dr. Princess Cullum is no stranger to the Gloria Show. She is a regular, and every opportunity and chance that we can have her to come in, she has just a wealth of information, and she knows that she's always welcome to come in and to share. So I encourage you all to catch up with her, find her, go to her website, CEO of You, and you'll learn even more about who she is and what she does and what she offers to companies, organizations, and to the community, because everything she does is purpose driven.
Yes.
And that's what we're talking about, that leads to a good, well led life.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
very, very much. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Well, if you go out to the website, you can actually download or experience the masterclass for the COU Academy. And so the COU Academy, we run that every year. It typically launches in the spring. So if you want to get a sneak peek into what we actually do in the Academy, you can go out to the website and have an opportunity to go through, I think it's 3 different sessions of about an hour each. And then there's also a free guide that you can get on the website. It's the Career Breakthrough Guide. Really helps you in understanding, what do I need to do in order to own my career? Because that old career ladder where you go to work, you stay there for your whole entire life, and the organization just promotes you and moves you along, that doesn't exist anymore. You are your career. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so very much. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and wrap up. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Princess.
you.
Goodbye.
Do you ever feel stuck? Like you are capable of more, but you are not quite sure how to move forward? Gloria Sloan's life coaching program is designed to help individuals break through limiting beliefs, build self-confidence, and gain clarity both in their personal and professional development. Through personalized coaching, Gloria works one-on-one with clients to create clear plans, strengthen mindsets, and reconnect them with their purpose. Gloria's life coaching program is virtual, flexible, and results-driven, with a supportive structure designed to keep you focused, accountable, and moving forward with confidence and momentum. Clients gain clarity, confidence, and the tools needed to unlock their full potential from the inside out. Gloria's belief that ultra-successful people are always learning and seeking new ways to find fulfillment and elevate personal development is what drives her fierce dedication to her clients. Are you ready for your next chapter to begin? All it takes is one powerful decision. Make that decision now and visit www.gloriasloan.com and book your consultation call today. Gloria's ready when you are. It's time to begin your journey.
Hello and welcome back to the Gloria Show, and thank you again so much for joining me today. As we close the episode, I want to bring something together so that you can understand the difference between life coaching and executive coaching that allows you to choose the support fully. Life coaching focuses on the internal, the identity, purpose, your mindset, and your alignment, and the personality, the personal part of it. Whereas the executive coaching focuses on the external expression of that work, leadership presence, communication, strategic thinking, your decision making, influence, and impact. It helps you lead others well. One strengthens the inner foundation and the other expands leadership outward. And, when both are aligned, leaders don't just succeed, they sustain and they maintain. And what that means is to live a life and lead a life well. Live a life and lead a life well. So, I'm sure that now that you've got a big, big bust of information on the difference between life coaching and executive coaching. This gives you some information that you can now process, because if you are seeking life coaching, then you know the steps to take to that. Or if you are looking at executive coaching through an organization, then you know the steps to take for that. And that's what we want to do, to keep you informed with what coaching is and the difference between one coaching area and another. Thanks so much for watching the Gloria Show today. I hope you've been inspired and that you will go to gloriasloan.com or to all of the social media platforms, and you will like and share so that you can always know what's available and when we're coming on. And, you can also book a discovery call with me. If you've been feeling stuck, uncertain, or simply ready for more, this is your invitation to take the first step. I have a 30-minute free discovery call. It's safe, it's supportive, it's a space where you can pause, reflect, and explore what's possible for your life. And There's no pressure, no obligation. It's just there. I want to be available for you. It's just a robust conversation focused entirely on you to help you with your goals. And while you're on the site, you can also go to Everything I Want and Don't Want, download that workbook. It's going to be good. It's helpful. It's a free ebook. And book the free discovery call today and begin creating a life that you feel aligned with, that's intentional and truly led with well, because that's what we do here on the Gloria Show. We want you to be fully informed with everything you need to make the decisions about your personal development, growth, and development. We want you to be informed, and that's what we do, to inform you, to give you the information that's needed. And I want to tell you that ultra successful people are constantly learning and seeking new ways to find fulfillment and to elevate personal development. You're constantly doing that. And before we close, remember this as you embrace Black History Month and what it means to you. Think about what Black History Month means to you to find your fulfillment, to find your own personal fulfillment in life. Thank you again so much for joining me. I hope that we have given you good information. And again, until next time, goodbye for now.
You've been listening to The Gloria Show. Be sure to check out www.gloriasloan.com for more tools, strategies, and inspiration. And don't forget to connect with Gloria on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Until next time, stay inspired, stay motivated, and keep moving toward your best self.